April 11th, 2023 meeting of the Environment Committee. The agenda, unless there are any objections, will be approved as written. Any objections? Seeing none, we have an agenda. Next up is the approval of the March 28, 2023 Environment Committee minutes. Does anyone have any changes to the minutes? And we would need a motion and a second.
So moved.
So motion by Cameron, second by Carter. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. So minutes are approved unanimously. On our consent agenda, we have one item, non-controversial. Would anyone like to make a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next up is our non-consent business, 2023-83 Metro Plant Steam Turbine Sole Source. Mr. Edlund and Mr. White, welcome.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chair and Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to present our business item today. My name is Dan White. I'm the Director of Maintenance and Security at Metro Plant, or at the Metro site. And this is Craig Edlund. He's the Assistant General Manager of Treatment Services. And we're here to present business item 2023-83, which is the Metro Plant Steam Turbine Sole Source. The agenda, this is the agenda. I will provide the background slide, the current condition, and the system improvements. And then Craig will discuss the sole source justification, the scope of services, and the actual request for action by the council. So just a little background, the Metro Plant uses 3 fluidized bed incinerators to treat our wastewater solids. This is collected from the liquids treatment system. Heat energy is recovered via hot exhaust gas by the waste heat boilers. The waste heat boiler produces steam to heat plant buildings or to generate electricity in a steam turbine generator. Excess steam can also be sent to the auxiliary cooler or condenser. The piece of equipment that we're here to talk about is the G7 steam turbine, and that's what's shown in the dotted box to the right. The G7 steam turbine generator is located in the solids management building at the Metro Plant, and the power produced from the steam turbine generator is used on-site. This reduces our purchase electricity for the Metro Plant and offsets the carbon emission from fossil fuel-based electricity. So the current condition, the G7 steam turbine generator was taken down for a 5-year preventive maintenance, and we found some problems inside that needed to be addressed before the unit could be put back into service. The inspection found some internal corrosion and erosion and a bowed rotor shaft. Refurbishing the existing rotor cost more, and the lead time was actually longer than ordering a new rotor. And the recommended rehabilitation consists of repairing the turbine case, the extraction case, the diaphragms, and replacing the rotor assembly. There's also some system improvements. So based on the observations during the preventive maintenance inspection, the following system improvements are being evaluated to increase the service life and optimize performance of the steam turbine generator system. Steam trap improvements to minimize potential water carryover into the steam turbine. An automatic turning gear to keep the rotor turning for a brief period after shutdown to minimize the rotor bow. Yeah. Moisture mitigation to keep the inside of the turbine dry and reduce corrosion potential during outages. A steam strainer to prevent metal shavings from boiler repairs or corrosion products that enter into the turbine from the FBRs. And then a boiler feed water control, quality control improvements to ensure quality steam is sent to the steam turbine. Now I'll turn it over to Craig, and he can talk about the sole source.
Good afternoon, Chair, Council members. The sole source justification for this particular sole source is that Siemens Energy is our original equipment manufacturer, or the OEM, for the G7 turbine. using non-OEM parts and components would require some re-engineering of the system, and there would also be a greater risk that these parts that are not OEM would not meet the form, fit, or function of the original components. The price of the quoted parts and services for the sole source are comparable to previous quotes, typical industry costs, and have been determined to be fair and reasonable. Next slide. The scope of services for this sole source are split into two parts. The first part is the rehabilitation, which is really centered around rehabilitating the turbine case, the extraction case, and the diaphragms, and replacing the rotor assembly, including the shaft, discs, blades, and the shrouds, and to also provide other parts as required for the reassembly. The second part of this scope of services would be the installation and oversight of the commissioning, which is installing new rotor and assembly and reassembling the steam turbine and providing those commissioning services in conjunction with our staff on site. So our proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to execute a sole source contract 23P036 with Siemens Energy to provide replacement parts, repair, installation, and commissioning services for the steam turbine generator in an amount not to exceed $2 million. And that is the end of our presentation. Any questions?
Thank you. Questions from council members?
Good. Yeah, I was just curious, what is the typical lifespan of a rotor? Did this existing rotor meet that lifespan? Can we get any, has it improved enough that we can get more of a lifespan out of the new rotor? Have you looked at those options? That's kind of where I'm going with this.
Chair and committee members, the typical lifespan would be quite a bit longer than what we saw, and that's why some of the proposed improvements are there. There's a couple different things that would be affecting the condition when we open that up, and it's impurities or particles that are in the steam, and or possibly the quality of the steam, the makeup water and the steam that comes to it. So part of this project is to look at those and see if we can find ways to minimize and to maximize minimize the issues that are going into there and maximize the lifespan of that. So because it should last longer.
I have a question. So how often do you do your preventive maintenance inspections? And then as part of this contract, I think the system improvements with, drying it out and doing all those things are really important. So if you do preventive maintenance, is there a guarantee? Or I know it's hard to get a guarantee out of people when it's put back together, but is there some kind of a warranty that goes with this? And I expect you do it at least yearly for preventive maintenance, but. So
Chair and committee members, I don't know the warranty. Maybe others in the room will know that specific, but the preventive maintenance, we do preventive maintenance on a regular basis, but usually that's external to, and if we go back to the picture, as you can see, it's a very large unit. And so our insurance company likes, there's a recommended PM, even if it's running fine, at 5 years to open it up and inspect, because it turns at up to 5,000 RPM, does that sound right?
Yeah.
So, that's why we would do the internal, and that's when you find these items and repair them to make sure it, will run longer. So we do PMs on a regular basis, and it was a PM that discovered these issues. It wasn't like it catastrophically failed.
Right, no, okay, thank you.
I had a question. So is the new replacement turbine, is that going to be made out of a different material? Materials, configuration and compositions change over time, or is it similar to the original?
Chair and committee members, I don't have the answer to that. I believe it's the same materials. I don't know that they make a different material. but-
Because you said that the life cycle was shorter and it was bowed, and I was just wondering because of that, that they decided to go in a different direction in terms of material composition.
I'll
I
seek
can
the
see
audience
Renee
to see if
Heflin
they-
behind, nodding her head, so.
Yes.
Same.
Yeah, so industry standard. So it's the same, yeah. Sometimes you can switch metals, but in the steam turbines, there's just an industry standard that they would go with.
Okay, go ahead.
Just for curiosity, how old was this machine?
How,
How many years was used?
20 years? It was originally installed the same time that building was built, or right around the same time it is run.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I had one more. Is this the only one, or are there multiples in there?
This is the main turbine. We do have a much smaller turbine that can be run when this one's offline, but this was the primary turbine that we use it.
So I'm assuming the smaller one doesn't generate as much
No.
power, so we're kind of losing out while we're waiting for this to be fixed.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
So time is of an essence, and having a longer lead time would not be helpful either. Okay, great. I'm glad that you're going with, some design improvements so that hopefully we get a better deal out of the next one.
Yes.
If there are no other comments or questions, we'd be in want of a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.
Unanimous. Thanks. And that's the end of our non-consent business. We have one information item, 1 MN 320 Rehabilitation Update. Tim Wedin, and I don't have your name on my thing. Adam Gordon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Committee members, my name is Tim Wedin. I'm Assistant Manager with Interceptor Engineering. With me this evening is Adam Gordon, Manager of Interceptor Engineering. We're here to present you some information about the 1MN 320 Rehabilitation Project, update on the project itself. A little bit of background on the project location. The project is to the south and west of the intersections of Highway 55 and I-94 in Minneapolis. The red or mauve line that you see is the route of the existing Interceptor 1MN 320. The dot is a parcel or property that we have recently purchased as a part of the project. The black lines you see there are the other interceptors and other sanitary sewer that flow through this area and conduct wastewater from the areas to the west of this location. So a little bit of background. I know council member or Chairman Wolf has seen some of these pictures in the past. Our CCTV inspection has really shown that the pipe in this area is failing. It was constructed in the late 1800s, and it's really showing a poor condition. That lower right-hand image is from the original design or original construction of the 1800s, late 1800s facility. Because it's been here so long and because we're seeing some failure and because we're seeing such a flat slope to this pipe, we're seeing a lot of high maintenance costs due to cleaning from this pipe. We just don't have the flow to keep material moving through the pipe, and so it settles out in the pipe itself, and we really need to get in there fairly routinely to be able to clean that out. Also because of that low flow rate, that slow flow through there, it has an opportunity to stay in that pipe for a very long time, and it has become a source of odors, or it has potential to become a source of odors. Really not something that we want to see with our pipes. It doesn't meet current design standards for a sanitary sewer. What we want to do with our project is to eliminate a failing pipe. We really want to make sure that we're providing good service to our customer communities. And part of what we'll do in order to provide, to eliminate that failing pipe is to increase pipe slopes to make sure that we've got some self-cleaning grades on that pipe. Make that water move through at a higher rate, higher velocity, and really scour out the material that could otherwise accumulate in the bottom of that pipe. The other thing that we want to do, that we are trying to do as a part of this project, is to reduce the backwater effect. Now, it's kind of a technical idea when we start talking about backwater. The best way I can explain what a backwater event is we have two streams of water that are coming together. Think about it when you're coming to an intersection and you're going to make a right-hand turn into that intersection. If you've got a little bit of flow coming through that, a little bit of traffic coming through that intersection, it's fairly easy for you to make a right-hand turn into that intersection. If you've got a lot of traffic coming across that right-hand intersection, it's harder for you to make that turn into the intersection. And so people behind you start backing up and slowing down while you wait to be able to make your entrance into that intersection. We're trying to do the same thing with this improvement. We're trying to improve how that flow comes together at that location, improve the flow's ability to merge into that cross traffic and prevent everything from backing up behind it. So that's really going to help reduce the amount of debris that is accumulating in that upstream pipe. We're also trying to minimize or eliminate any sediment buildup in that pipe by doing these things to really help maintain the capacity in that line. And by accelerating or increasing the velocity of that water through the pipe, it's going to help us reduce odors in that area. So there are a number of options that we looked at to try to improve the flow through this location. And so we're working on a draft facility plan right now as a part of that work and looked at 3 different options. One is to do nothing. It doesn't address any of the failing pipe. We still experience the continued excessive operation and maintenance costs, and really isn't a great alternative to advance forward with. We looked at lining or rehabilitation of the existing pipe. It strengthens the failing pipe, prevents it from getting any worse, but it doesn't address a lot of the problems that we still have on that pipe. We still have a flat pipe. We still end up with excessive O&M costs due to settling materials and odors. It really doesn't do anything to help solve the problem that we have at this location. So we're continuing with the realignment and a construction of a lift station at this location. It removes the failing pipe from the system, and it also addresses the pipe slope that is causing our excessive O&M costs at this location. So with a lift station, we bump into some location restraints. We don't want to just build a lift station anywhere. We need to build a place where we can operate and maintain it for a longer period of time. So we wanted to look at a property that was outside of the floodplain, so we're not dealing with floodwaters coming into it. We need it south of Glenwood Avenue because it's closer to the existing sanitary sewer in that location, or interceptor in that location. Property needs to be below a mean sea level elevation of 820 feet, so we don't build a very deep lift station in that location. Need it to be west of Dupont Avenue, again, to keep it close to where our existing facility is. We want it outside of recent or planned development because there's a lot of development that's going on out there, and we don't want to impact existing residences. I don't want to buy out a home to build a lift station in its area. So we're trying to look at all these different requirements as we advance and purchase a property. And fortunately, we've identified a couple of sites on this map. You'll see in the yellow is the property that we purchased, that we've been able to purchase. The green identifies some additional locations that were preferred or seen as potential locations. The pink shows some recent development that's also been occurring in the area. Kind of the shaded area is the area that we've been looking at for the past year or so. And it's not adjacent to a single-family home. It provides adequate setbacks from neighboring properties. And I think probably the key thing that brought put this property forward for us is we had a willing seller. That really helped advance the project for us. With that new pipe location, the property location, moving forward with the lift station, you can see that we are going to need to do some realignment of the interceptor through that area. The orange line here shows where that the existing interceptor runs. The green line would be the location of where the new interceptor would run to bring the wastewater to the new lift station up on Fremont and close to Glenwood there. That's only part of what we would be doing as a part of this project. The project would also require some replacement of sanitary sewer interceptor along Dupont Avenue. The black line that you can see running from left to right on this map, so north is to the right on the map. That's where the existing interceptor line runs right now. Because of the abilities, or because of how things are constructed right now and where the existing tie-ins are to the city system, we would have the ability to raise that pipe, to change the grade of that pipe. So that would not require a new lift station connection for that. We're preferring the darker blue line on the west side of Dupont Avenue there as a preferred alignment. We do have some other alternatives that we're looking at there as well. For a project timeline, as I said, we've been preparing our facility plan for quite some time here now. Spring of this year, we've been really reaching out and meeting with a number of entities to talk about the project as we move forward. We've talked with the city of Minneapolis, and we've been talking with the city for a couple of years here now. We've talked with neighborhood groups about the project. We'll continue to talk with groups about the project and how the project will advance and how the project will impact them. We'll continue to gain feedback from various organizations as we move into project design here in 2023. We're really looking for project construction to start in 2024 and lasting through 2025. With that, Adam, I think you had some additional information for us.
Right, Madam Chair, I asked to tag along today because last night I had the benefit of being part of the presentation to the Harrison Neighborhood Association. Our property that Tim just pointed out, we purchased it fairly recently. As Tim said, it was a willing seller, which is always a big plus mark in our books, and especially when you're trying to evaluate between several different opportunities. The whole area is developing very rapidly. Just in the last 6 months, there is a new crane that's on the property immediately to the west, and the area to the south of us has been cleared out for development as well. So things are moving very fast in this neighborhood. So we were invited to the Harrison Neighborhood Association to give a 20-minute presentation. An hour later, I left. And it was civil. However, there was a lot of concerns over the property that we purchased at that location. We discussed land use. It is zoned for both commercial, light commercial, and residential use. However, we will probably likely go through and have to get a conditional use permit through the city of Minneapolis. There were a lot of asks. Two primary asks were, this doesn't really fit in with the overall planning for city of Minneapolis, and that they have their overlays. They have what they'd like to see built there. Most of the new construction that is occurring out there is in that range of 4 to 5 stories. So having a small lift station on a corner, it was conceived as being out of line with their plan. They actually have the area marked as Transit 15, which is 15-story, which I don't quite know how that would quite fit in, given the surrounding development. But it shows how much development they're trying to get into the neighborhood, being that it's just west of downtown. You're within, a quarter mile of the downtown office building, so it's very accessible. It's a neighborhood that I think is changing very fast. I used to work in that neighborhood. I can barely recognize most of the streets in that neighborhood right now. They asked if we could combine uses. Can you build it with a restaurant? And no. Can you build it with a parking ramp? Well, yeah, maybe. So they were trying to come up with good ideas of how you could increase the usage of the property. And of course, they had a lot of suggestions for other properties, and everybody flipped open their laptops and was running around with Google trying to, why aren't you going here? Why aren't you going there? So kind of missing the fact that over a year ago, we canvassed the neighborhood looking for willing sellers, and those places weren't available at the time. However, there are a few realtors that are on the board, and developers, I should say, and they were interested in helping us out. And since then, this morning, we even got a few tips. So we'll definitely follow those up. I think it's really important that this fits in with the neighborhood and the neighborhood's wishes. I wanted to come here tonight to let you know what was up, because you're going to probably hear about it from your constituents as we move forward. I'm looking at that schedule. I would advise that even though this is a really important pipe to fix, and Madam Chair, you even nudged me last year and said, where are we with that pipe? And, we got to get on with it. But, long term, it has to fit in with the neighborhood, and it has to, and I don't want to create a situation where we're forcing something that shouldn't be forced. So we're going to pace ourselves. We're expecting a letter from the association, so you'll probably see that, perhaps. If not, or either our regional administrator or somebody will receive that letter. And we'll follow up with whatever leads we can have, and we're invited back. We were invited back for the annual meeting, so I expect that we'll continue these conversations in full with the neighborhood association. So I just wanted to impart that tonight with all of you.
Thank you for that. As you said, this has been a problem area for a very, very long time and a complex project, and I appreciate you taking the time to make things right with the neighbors as much as we can and be a good neighbor, because that's important that we have the support of the community as well. Any other questions, comments from council members?
I just wanted to kind of second what she was saying. I really appreciate the dialogue, because I think a lot of the fear and the resentment is because of the lack of dialogue or enough dialogue in an honest way. So my hat's off to that. So
Thank you.
And I just was curious, how well received was the information about the need for the new? With all this apartment buildings and more and more and more, it's going to
Right.
get more of a need, the odors will get worse. I mean, it's kind of is
Right.
important to do it.
So, Madam Chair, to reflect on that, I listen for little wins, and they're not opposed.
Okay,
They just want to make sure that we've gotten the right piece of property. And so I count that as a little win. I heard the words, we're not opposed to a lift station, which is like, wow, most people would run you out of town because you proposed the lift station. So they know they have a problem. And it maybe helped that we had a few sinkholes this last week with the thawing ground and other things going on, but that is on people's minds, especially in this neighborhood, where just north of here, the city of Minneapolis had a very almost tragic water main break that caused a lot of problems for a while. So the infrastructure is on people's minds.
okay, thank you.
We've certainly gotten use out of the existing pipe. It's not being prematurely abandoned by any stretch of the imagination. Other questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that comes to the end of our agenda. We have a stand-in for the general manager report. Do you have anything to say?
There is no update for the general manager.
Then we are done with our agenda. So there being no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Kyle, can I talk to you for a second?
And I'm drafting drafting a response about the gas station.
In Spring Lake Township, yes. Back up.